they're just looking at the map up here, and they'll just assign a new address.
Interesting one to get
It's not
initiated.
GIS.
So why is it better? Why is theirs better than what we
Yeah.
have?
It's all on GIS.
It's pretty
They do it
obvious.
for all the different counties.
I tried to
Coming in
I
right here.
tried to watch as much as I could.
Well, they do it for Red River. They do it for
I see what we can
Bowie.
very hard.
They do it for, I believe they do it for Cass. They're here. They'll tell us which ones.
So what I did was I attached it to my Bluetooth speaker
Hey,
and turned it up
Mark,
really loud.
in Winsboro, we use the East Texas Council of
And I can
Governments for our
still hear.
for our 911 address.
What's the difference in this one?
Well, we're in the Architects Council,
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
not the East Texas.
Okay.
Frankly, the Architects.
All right, you ready? You ready? All right, it is 6 o'clock. We'll bring this meeting, the Mount Vernon City Council to order. We'll start off with tell them minutes.
We do usually we do the invocation, then we do the pledge.
Okay, so we're gonna start off with invocation. Mark, Mary, would one of you grab that, please?
Heavenly Father, thank you again for the rain that we've got and this wonderful town we have, Lord, and just watch over us tonight as we go through the different resolutions that we have and help us decision making that we continue to be good stewards of the taxpayer money and continue to bless us. In your name I pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Citizen participation, just read that.
All right, we will start off with the citizen participation. First off, let me start with this. The Texas Open Meetings Act prohibits council from responding to any comments other than to refer to the matter to a future agenda, to an existing policy, or to make a statement of factual information. Claims against the city council, employees, as well as individual personnel appeals are not appropriate for citizens forum. All right. So we'll start off with this.
Anybody have any? Yeah.
Is that what you want? Okay. So we're gonna start off with citizens participation. Ms. Truesdale, would you like to start? You have 3 minutes.
Okay. So I'm Charlotte Truesdale. I live on 1896 in Mount Vernon, and I'm just here to express appreciation to the city for all the cooperation and collaboration at our recent Carry the Load event. It was our second community event. We had a great turnout, and it could not have happened the way it did without the participation of our police department and fire department and all the planning that went into it. I know that Cassidy Wesson is no longer in the same position, but she was a really big help in getting this thing off the ground and helping us do what we needed to do. Carry the Load is very impressed with our community in general, but also with the event that we've had the last 2 years. And they've already reached out to us again to see about next year. So we don't have a date yet, but I especially wanted to say a special thanks to those who came out and participated on that day and walked with us. So to Greg and to Sally and to Martin, thank you so much for coming out and walking with us. And we hope you'll come back and bring someone else next year.
Definitely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Charlie. Next is Krista Shield. Shield? Okay. You have 3 minutes.
All right, thank you. I'm Krista Shield, and I've had a tour of your beautiful city by my friend Robinette Bannister today. And usually when I attend a city council meeting across the state of Texas, we do a pledge to the Texas flag. I'd love to see you do that here. Actually, I brought you a street naming proclamation tonight that we've had passed in other cities in Texas, including Josephine, where they're trying to build the Mecca of the West, or the epicenter for Islam in North America. I actually am the Texas director for RARE Foundation, Rise, Align, Ignite, Reclaim, and we've brought the documentation to our Governor Abbott and Attorney General Paxton that opened criminal investigations against East Plano Islamic Center because they are doing business for Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood. And so we got the designations from our governor and attorney general to designate CAIR and the Muslim Brotherhood as terrorist organizations and transnational criminal organizations, as well as RARE Foundation is responsible for the Sharia Free America Caucus, and now we have a Sharia Free Texas Caucus, and it is a top priority in our next legislative session for a reason. This street naming proclamation, to be made a city ordinance, is setting up a firewall against Muslim communities coming in, setting up their mosques and developments, because they've been naming their streets after Islamic conquerors in their battles and after verses in the Quran that talk about killing the infidel. So this street naming proclamation sets you up in your city so that no street can ever be named after anything that is anti-American or anti-Western culture. Let me pass that off to you. And if you're thinking, well, we don't currently have a mosque, Krista, so we're safe. Well, let me tell you, the reason I'm here tonight is because they've been spreading out to small towns and rural communities. And in their own words of these Islamic leaders, they have said that this is a political expansion in order to dominate. It's about conquest. They have been land banking, buying hospitals, buying urgent cares, buying preschools and daycares. And what we've seen happen just down the road in Paris, Texas, is a takeover of a hospital and building a new hospital that's owned by Muslims. 90% of the medical students, from what I've been told, at Paris Regional are Muslims. They've already instituted halal in the cafeteria and are trying to get it reinstituted. Also, not too far down the road in Tyler, Texas, their largest of the 3 mosques is run by a man who does financial business for the government of Egypt. That's not called a place of worship. That's called an embassy, and there are parameters around that. We also have, not too far down the road in McKinney, Texas, one of at least 2 Sharia tribunals run by another imam who is doing business for the government of Egypt. We also have, and you'll see this happening down the road in Sulphur Springs, they have an Islamic association. Within that association right now, they are doing a fundraiser to build the larger mosque, because right now it's a set of trailers on a piece of property. But what's happening is Ustad Muhammad Bajor, one man who is an imam, who's been all over the state of Texas, including Frisco's new Islamic Center that their city council unfortunately just passed with Quad City Mosque. That man is so dangerous that the UK, that's been practically taken over by a Sharia, won't even allow him in their country. But he's right here fundraising for these types of mosques. Please follow RAIR, R-A-I-R, foundation.com, and Amy Meck, M-E-K, and our Substack for more information. And I've left you my phone number in this paper here tonight, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Is Robinette here? Robinette? Awesome. Next is Miss Robinette Bannister. So you've got 3 minutes.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Put a name with a face, right? My name is Robinette Bannister. This is my hometown. My folks have been here for generations. I love Mount Vernon dearly. I think some of you on the city council know me well. You know my deep love for Mount Vernon. I just want to start with a few points tonight that has kind of come to my attention, and I've spoken with Ms. Angie about some of it. I've tried to reach out to the city council and everybody through email. It's been a couple of months now, almost, just a few days short of a couple of months, that your email addresses are incorrect. Ms. Bailey's email is incorrect. Mr. Huddison's email is incorrect. There is no email for you, Mr. Ostertag. There's no email for Ms. Sally Yang. So if anybody, not just me, but anyone wants to reach out to you, it gets kicked back. There's no way for them to email you, which we all know is a preferred form of communication, is very efficient, not just for me, but for you all too. I ask that you look into that and for the good of the citizens of Mount Vernon, have that rectified as soon as possible. Also a concern that I addressed whenever this meeting was called, or should I say recalled, rescheduled, I reached out concerning a change. I had gone back on the agendas over 2026, 2025, 2024, and just kind of quickly went and opened the agendas and noticed a change from your former secretary to your current secretary that is not being listed on the online for the time and date stamp. And I have been told that I'm wrong, but according to the Texas Open Meetings Act, the date and time stamp has to be on both the public, whenever you post that on the window, but also on your website. That is transparency. I know transparency is something that was a lot of speak and focus, and please, abide by those so the people in Mount Vernon and other places know when your meetings are going to be held, because not everybody can walk by the city hall and see that posted. We are a data electronic civilization now. Also, can I encourage you to please get a code enforcement officer in place as soon as possible. There are lots of issues that not just I'm aware of. I don't even reside here. I work in this region. I'm through here on a regular basis. I spend my money here. I spend my energy here. I always will to the day I die, because I will be buried somewhere in either Pearlie or Mount Vernon, because that's where my families are. We've always been from here. I'm very proud to be from Mount Vernon. I think it's a wonderful place to be, a wonderful place to promote. I do what I can to drive people that I know and organizations I know here. I want them to come to a beautiful town. But code enforcement is where that starts. Please get a code enforcement officer. And I thank you for your service, each one of you, and everything that you do. And I guess that's my time. I don't see a timer, but that's probably close to 3 minutes. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you. All right. I have nobody else on the items considered.
Yes,
All
sir.
right.
Correct.
All right, we'll move on to the items to be considered. For number one is we're going to consider interlocal agreement with Architects Council of Government for 911 addressing services.
Yes, Mayor, we have some guests here from the Architects Council of Governments to speak
Alright.
on that. All the way from Texarkana.
Away from Texarkana. Good evening, Mayor and the members of the City Council. My name is Rhea Allen, and I am the 911 Program Director for the Architects Council of Governments, where we oversee the 911 network implementation. We oversee the equipment installation. We have a GIS program. Under the GIS program falls addressing, and we have public education. Franklin County Sheriff's Office is one of our public safety answering points. And a couple of months ago, maybe a month ago, we were contacted by the city secretary in reference to some addressing services. Currently, we address for some of the cities within our region, maybe about 15 cities in our region where we have taken over the addressing authority for that. The state of Texas has mandated that we ensure that there's data accuracy in the 911 map. Because of that, we already address in the rural areas, Franklin County included. So some of the cities that may not have the manpower, may not have the GIS knowledge on how to work a map, have contacted us and asked us to take over those services for them, Mount Vernon being one. So I'm here to answer any questions that you may have in reference to an interlocal agreement. This will be at no cost to the cities because you are helping us ensure the data accuracy of our maps. And I'm just here to answer any questions you may have in relation to that. We do start off with an audit where we will go through and we will map the city. We will compare it to the current data that we do have in the map. Then we will go from there. We go and we contact the city and say these are the discrepancies that we found according to our addressing guidelines. We work with you to ensure that we change those. We work with the residents to get those changed. We did do sort of an assessment of the city of Mount Vernon, and we rarely found any major any major errors that we have found in some of our smaller cities. So that's a good thing. From there, we will create a database for the city. The city can use it for their purposes, but it's all a part of our 911 database. And we will start taking over addressing for any new addresses that come going from this point forward, should you agree to enter into the interlocal agreement with us. And I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
How does that work as far as like the addressing authority? And I just had an experience with this in another town.
Okay.
We have a business and we bought the property next door to us and we replatted it.
Okay.
And so the addresses skipped like 4 addresses within 2 buildings.
Mm-hmm.
So is that something that a business or someone would contact you about those addresses, and what would that process look like?
Yes, they would. We are used to that, and it is part of our guideline that we do skip to allow for advancement. So, for example, if your address is 100, and historically this building has been 100, now I want to lease it out, well, then the next address to the building next to you may be 103. That leaves no room for any additional addresses. So we try to make sure that we're leaving spaces to allow for advancement. May come years after us, after we're gone, but we want to make sure that that's there so that you're not readdressing a whole block as a result of having addresses side by side.
So in a case where, like, I don't know, I own my own house and 3 properties down the line,
Mm-hmm.
and there's no addresses there,
Mhm.
would that whole block be readdressed? And
We-
do they?
We would have to, and
What
I'm
does that
sorry, I
process?
think
What does that process look like? Like, how long does it take? What would that process look like?
it would take a couple of days for us to come up with a solution for that. It does sometimes require that the other addresses do change. We have seen in some cities where they have halves addresses, A's and B's. We try to steer away from that, but we do try to consider the ramifications, the ripple effect of changing everybody down that road, because you would have to change your records, your banking information.
That's
We
what
have
they
run
say.
into
You have
that.
to get deeds redone.
Sometimes they do have to do that if the addresses are that close. So that will be what we would come back to the city with and say. Actually, our GIS manager is here. This is William Wagner, and Alan is here with us as well, and they work on that. So if they see any of those, he did find a couple of those that were kind of in consecutive order, but left no room for advancement in the city. And then we would come to the city, give our solutions to that, and then you would decide on whether or not, what you want to do with that. If you want to readdress 4 or 5 addresses, or if you want to do halves, or if you want to go through and do the A's and the B's. But we do recommend that every address is skipped to allow for the advancement, because that what leads to this problem that you're talking about right now.
So, I think I heard something you said. I just want to be clear. So, when you find something like that,
Mhm.
you bring it back to the city for the city to make a decision on what they want to do, and then you process forward with that.
That's right. And then
Okay.
from there, if the agreement is that you enter into an interlocal agreement with AdCog, then we have to contact the citizens to let them know, give them the chance to come to a meeting and possibly say what their concerns are, because it is a lot to have to change your address. And we run into that a lot, but just to let them know that this is coming forward. So we would ask the city to even send out notification that this is a process. We're going through an audit. You may or may not be asked to change your address as a result, but it is in the best interest of public safety. And
So one last
Okay.
question along those lines. So, how many areas, you said you've kind of looked through Mount Vernon? Are there any specific like hot spots where you see those problems? And if so, like not detailed, but like how many of them? Like 2 blocks, 1 block, 12 blocks?
we haven't done a complete assessment. I did ask William to kind of skim through the city to see if you're seeing any problem points. That is the exact problem that he is seeing within the city, is that there's no room for advancement. If you want to build a structure right behind your home and maybe, like you said, sublet it out, there's no room for an address. So then we need to change the address. He did make out some copies just to kind of give you some reference points of what we're seeing. Again, like I said, it's not a major problem. Like we've had cities we've had to readdress the whole town, but we're not seeing that here. That is the kind of issue that we're seeing. It's just that. So, if you want a copy of those, he can.
I'm just
Yeah.
curious, like the process, because like I said, if there's a lot of it that has to be done, not saying we wouldn't do this, but that does have a cost associated to it. Maybe not to the city or to you, but to the homeowner, it would have a cost associated to that,
Yes.
to get that done.
Yes.
And if we're requiring them to do that, I'm just curious how much of it you've seen, and maybe you're not prepared to answer that today.
We've seen a lot of it. I've been with our
Well, I
Texas
meant
Council of
within our
Governments.
city.
Yeah, not within your city,
Okay.
but within other cities that I can give you as a point of reference. And you're right, it is painstaking to some residents. What we do is we give them official documentation so that it's no cost incurred to them to have to change their addresses.
It's just time consuming.
It's just time consuming, and it does take time for you to finally see it on Google Maps for all of your addressing to change. So I would like to speak to any resident that you would have to, and to let them know this is what it's going to entail. It's going to take some time, but you still have the right to say no. We still have to represent what's on the ground, whether it's out of sequence or not. We have to still put that in the 911 map. We still have to put it up to our ESINet, our Emergency Services Internet, for call routing, and it has to depict what's on the ground. We exception code it because the state system sends it back as an error if we were to go ahead and address out of sequence. But we would exception code it in our map, give the reasons why. We can even say the resident refused. We just have to give, of course, them the notification. If you refuse to change your address, you are at risk for X, Y, and Z.
Thank you.
I have a question. I know that we've had some issues with the Postal Service and the addresses there. So there are some addresses that are here that have the same address, but they're on a north or a south or a east or a west, and they're not actually implemented on the GPS system for the postal office. Have you seen that here, or would that be corrected?
Yes, that would be a part of our audit. So we have to ensure that we have dispatchable locations when it comes to the 911 addresses. When an address is assigned by our office, we send that to the post office.
Okay.
So that would also be a part of our auditing process. We would say these roads don't have a suffix directional or a post directional. The true address is 125 North Washington. And so we try to ensure that every single address is addressed correctly according to the guidelines, because our system will throw it back as an error too if it sees any type of duplication in
Yeah,
the
because
same city.
I've checked a couple of times on Texas DOT. If you try to type in certain addresses, it won't pop up. But according to how we have our addresses here, but the DOT has it different, where it does have a north or a south or east or a west. So,
And that is the addressing schema. Am I correct in what I'm saying there? So we try to make sure that that is all correct. Once we're done with the audit, you've come to agreement on the ones that you want to change, that you don't want to change, we exception code it. We'll send all of that information to the Postal Service. Then they take it up to their clearinghouse from there. So we have found that we are helping some processes, and sometimes we really do find messes that we have to navigate through.
okay. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Changing like some of the 911, the addresses for 911, how long does that take though to update into our CAD system? How long does it take to update our first responder apps that we use when it comes to addresses? Because there's sometimes, again, it can be confusing. Our dispatch can drop us the exact location through our active 911 apps that we use to ping us exactly where we go. So how long can that take to update all of the information for first responders who utilizes the active 911 ping drops and through our CAD system and all of that?
Okay. Well, of course, this is the foundation of why our program even exists, is for the 911 call center.
Right.
So the 911 map, we use the VESTA system, which is used at Franklin County Sheriff's Office. We are contacted occasionally by the CAD vendor who Franklin County has decided to use. They use our mapping data to proffer up and to populate their CAD system maps. So we're contacted quite often. Joe Shadbolt is the PSAP manager there. And so out of all of our 13 PSAPs, he makes sure that, Mount Vernon, hey, Rhea, I see this I see this error, this needs to be corrected. We rely a lot on our PSAP and our PSAP managers to tell us if they see any errors, because they're basically our boots on the ground to let us know. And so from the time, to your question, from the time we receive an error till we get it to Merle or to not to Merle. Merle sends it over to William or over to Al, and that process could be a couple of days to a week on that. With the mass change, it's gonna be a lot longer. But usually when we do an address, it's in our 911 map and they do those pushes. How often do you do a push to a PSAP?
Roughly weekly.
Weekly. So they get the updates weekly, and we can do them more frequently if upon request if we need to, but roughly weekly we have seen that, and it's happened even with a new address. So even if there's a new build going in, that point is on the map before the house is even built.
Right.
Okay, so we make sure that we get that updated. So that's what we do weekly as far as getting the information, and it's done remotely. So from our offices in Texarkana, we're able to push that data. That's actually what Alan does. He'll push the data up to the PSAP so that they have the most accurate data.
Go ahead.
One more question. You said that it could be time consuming to the residents. Is there a process that they are helped out?
We've actually had to, sometimes they have no problem with the letter that we give them, the address change. We make sure that in that letter, the old address is referenced, the new address is referenced, that's through no fault of their own, and that it's in the best interest of public safety. Okay. Usually, they have no problem changing their deeds, their banking information, their licenses. With that letter, they're not charged for it. Okay. But for those who have multiple properties or things tied to the address, I have found that sometimes it takes a lot longer. We'll get calls from agencies, from banks, asking us to verify that information, and we do it on our end and send them anything that they need.
Okay.
Just to validate the change.
Yeah.
Is this for just the city or the city and the county?
We already are the addressing authority for the county.
Okay.
So we've been doing that for decades for the county. With the Next Generation 911 initiative, when the state decided that we're going to start using address points to now route a call, then it became our responsibility to ensure that all of the data was accurate. And so we've been working with some of the cities, and we found that some of the cities didn't have GIS people, that could make sure they didn't have the time, to even make sure that the schema was correct. And so we're now offering the services. We have a great team. They've done very good. We went from 2 cities, and now, like you said, we're up to 15, 16, should you guys approve it tonight.
So when you say there's no cost to the city, you're paid through the cell phone carriers, through a local
Yes,
fee?
basically through the 911 service fee. Every phone bill, every fax line has a 911 service fee that's sent up to the state, and that's how our program is funded, through 911 service fees, and how this program would be funded, this project.
Everybody good?
Mm-hmm.
Any
Thank you.
questions?
Feel free to call us anytime. The example that I sent over of the interlocal agreement, I apologize, had an error. I think our last agreement may have been with a city in Red River County. So we will update that information. It will be sent electronically for signatures should you decide to go into an agreement. And I'll say this too, if you do decide to not go into an agreement, we will still be in contact. It's still a partnership to say, okay, we are still seeing these errors are coming back to us. It's just your responsibility to fix those and get that information to us.
I actually do have one other question.
Yes, sir.
When it talks about the confidentiality and proprietary information, it says all material submitted to RPC becomes public property. What is there? There's never really any private information that's provided to you, is there?
Well, we like to ensure the privacy of who lives in that home. So for our 911 maps, we may have the owner information and the occupant information. So we're making sure that we're not giving that information, that particular information out. Where the 911 call center may have it, if we're ever asked for address points, we could say this is what the address is at this point, but we won't give the owner information along with it. So we scrub it anytime we're asked for any type of information. Who owns the property and all of that, if it comes from us.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Very helpful.
All right, to have a motion to move forward with this.
A motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Number 2, consider an ordinance number 2026-05, adopting and implementing a school zone in the area of Rutherford Street and School Lane.
Angie, would you bring up the map on this, please? The former superintendent and Craig Watson, the current superintendent, approached us about a month ago describing the need for a school zone on Rutherford Street. There's a ton of kids that walk across Rutherford to go to school, especially since that's how you get into the junior high school now. And they asked for our help in establishing a school zone. So we have worked with them, and Chad has taken the TxDOT standards for school zones and laid it all out, and we came up with a cost estimate for it, and they wanted the school zone before school started. And that's one of the reasons we're meeting tonight, because school starts the second week of August. And we have to order all of the equipment to do this, and have the paving striper come out and do this. The school's going to pay for it, but we're going to kind of coordinate the installation of the equipment and make sure that everything gets done according to the design that is laid out here, which is in accordance with TxDOT standards. And Chad doesn't like to talk, but you want to walk us through this, because
No, that's fine.
I think
this
it's
is fine. Everybody here knows Rutherford pretty well and knows.
Basically, we're gonna have all the crosswalks repainted. There'll be a solid white line at the actual flashing lights for the school zone. As far as TxDOT's concerned, I had to space them out. I got 200, 200, and 100. So our school zone basically, I think it's going to be, I think it's 1,200 feet, something like that, in length. We're not going to go past Miller. We'll have all the crosswalks done at Miller. There'll be flashing pedestrian signs at the crosswalks. I'm just waiting on the programmable blinking lights for the school, the actual school zone. Everything else is being shipped as we speak.
Are they gonna, because I know where this is, but are you gonna start the flashing before Miller or right at Miller, like the 20, you're gonna slow it down to 20, correct?
Yes, it's going to go down to 20.
And you're gonna
It's
start
gonna
the
be-
20 at Miller, all the way down
200 feet past Miller.
to the east?
Maybe to the west.
No,
You'll have blinking lights for the crosswalk
No, I
at Miller
understand.
and Rutherford.
But not to the east.
Well, the only reason I say that is because a lot of kids cross right there at Miller,
Yeah, I'll have flashing lights there. Okay, but that's not where the school
but the
zone
20 won't
starts.
start until after, to the west side of Miller.
That's right, yeah.
And that's according to TxDOT.
Yeah,
Okay,
TxDOT says basically if you started too far out,
that's right.
ignore it.
That's right. They figured out the more you expand it, the less people actually obey the school zone. So they don't want you to stretch it out too far.
okay.
But there will be a crosswalk and there will be flashing lights.
No, I understand. I just know a lot of kids
Yeah.
go up Miller that way,
Oh, yeah.
especially after school,
Yeah.
just seeing them, so.
And for the implementation of this, I haven't talked to Leah about this, but Craig Watson has talked to their school PD, and they will help, the first few weeks, make sure that this gets top priority with your presence and their presence there. You're good.
Let's go ahead and have a motion.
Motion.
Second.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Number 3, consider a water leak adjustment for the business located at 104 Houston Street in Mount Vernon. That's yours, Dan.
This is at Joy Street Academy. It was unoccupied, and there was a leak, and she got hit with a big water bill, and she's basically asking for an adjustment of reduction of about 50%. We base that on their average billing over a 6-month period, and it's staff recommendation that the council do this. By ordinance, the council is the only entity that actually can grant these adjustments. So, it'd be our recommendation to go ahead and do this.
I got a motion?
I'll make a motion.
All right,
I'll second.
second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Ayes, all right. All right, number 4, request to be placed on agenda. Citizen Jared Turner has requested to address the city council regarding current permitting procedure. All right.
Yeah, you can refer whatever it says back to the staff. Work on.
Is it okay to give these out?
Oh, absolutely.
It's not super professional, but
Thank you.
easier to read later.
Thank you.
It's easier if I just read what I've got here. Like I say, good evening, everybody. Thank you for letting me speak here tonight. And I provide each of you with a written proposal containing recommendations and supporting documentation. Tonight, I'd like to discuss several policy improvements that I believe will strengthen Mount Vernon's permitting, inspection, and code enforcement process while protecting public safety, preserving property values, and improving public confidence in local government. I believe Mount Vernon does not have a building code problem, we have an enforcement problem. Before I continue, I want to make one thing clear. My comments are not directed at anyone personally. It's not a personal issue, it's a personnel issue. I appreciate the work that city employees do every day, and I recognize they can only be successful when they have the time, staffing, resources, and administrative support necessary to carry out the responsibilities entrusted to them. My purpose tonight is to discuss policies, procedures, staffing, and consistent enforcement, not individuals. The city has adopted building codes and ordinances for one reason: to protect the health, safety, and welfare of our community. Those ordinances establish minimum standards for construction, occupancy, and property maintenance. They protect homeowners, tenants, businesses, and neighborhoods alike. However, ordinances only have their intended purposes when they are administered fairly, consistently, and without exception. As Mount Vernon continues to grow, the responsibilities placed upon code enforcement continue to grow as well. New residential construction, commercial development, remodeling projects, nuisance property enforcement, rental property oversight, abandoned structures, and upcoming infrastructure improvements all require professional oversight. These responsibilities have evolved into a full-time function. I respectfully encourage council to evaluate their city's current staffing structure is adequate to meet these growing demands. In my opinion, code enforcement should be a full-time position supported by a dedicated administrative assistant. Administrative support would allow inspectors to spend more time in the field, conducting inspections, monitoring projects, responding to citizen concerns, and forming ordinances, while permit processing, scheduling, record management, and public inquiries are handled entirely in the office. Strong code enforcement is not an expense, it's an investment in public safety, neighborhood preservation, responsible development, and the long-term value of every property within our community. The permitting process should be the foundation of that investment. A building permit should represent more than authorization to begin construction. Before a permit is issued, there should be a clearly defined scope of work, complete documentation, and confirmation that the proposed project complies with applicable ordinances. In most cases, preliminary inspection should occur before the permit is issued to ensure proposed work actually reflects existing site conditions. Permits should also promptly be displayed at every job site where they can be clearly visible to the public street. Visible permits improve transparency, simplify inspections, and ensure neighboring property owners that work is being performed under an approved permit. Equality important is the inspection process itself.
The purpose of inspection is not merely to verify that work has been completed. Its purpose is to ensure that the construction complies with adopted building, electrical, plumbing, mechanical, fire, and life safety codes before the project goes to the next stage. While technology can be a valuable tool, there is no substitute for an inspector physically evaluating the property. Video inspections may be appropriate in limited circumstances, but they cannot reliably identify structural movement, foundation deficiencies, moisture intrusion, concealed electrical hazards, improper framing, or numerous other conditions that affect public safety. On-site inspections should remain the standard whenever practical. Construction, major remodeling, new construction, and site renovation projects should also be required to maintain basic job site standards. Permits should require an on-site bulk trash container to prevent construction debris from accumulating on the property. A portable restroom should be available for workers of job site deems necessary. In addition, projects that subject to stormwater regulations should demonstrate compliance with all applicable Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan, or SWP3, requirements before work begins throughout construction. Proper erosion and sediment controls help prevent mud, debris, and pollutants from entering streets, drainage systems, and neighboring properties. These simple requirements help construction sites clean, safe, and respectful surrounding property owners while protecting the city's infrastructure. The city already has an ordinance addressing certificates of occupancy. It's Article 8, Section 5-161, subsection 2, requires a new certificate of occupancy inspection whenever a rental, HUD, or foreclosed residence becomes vacant before it may be occupied again. It also makes it unlawful to occupy, rent, lease, or otherwise allow occupancy of those properties without first obtaining new current certificate of occupancy. My concern is not the ordinance. My concern is consistent enforcement. A certificate of occupancy should represent that the property has been thoroughly inspected and found to comply with all applicable building, electrical, plumbing, mechanical, fire, and life safety codes before anyone occupies it. Whether occupant is a homeowner or a tenant, every family deserves to know the home is safe and meets the city's minimum standards. Finally, I ask that adopted building codes be enforced consistently and equally. Selective enforcement undermines public confidence, places responsible property owners at a disadvantage, and weakens the purpose of city ordinances. I respectfully ask the City Council to direct city staff to review city's permitting, inspection, certificate of occupancy, stormwater compliance, and code enforcement procedures, and return with the specific recommendations to improve these processes. Those recommendations should include permitting standards, inspection requirements, staffing needs, certificate of occupancy enforcement, construction site standards, and the consistent application of city's adopted building codes. Mount Vernon already has many of these ordinances necessary to protect its citizens. The opportunity before us is to strengthen the way these ordinances are implemented. Our community deserves the permitting process that is thorough, an inspection process that is meaningful, and a code enforcement program that is transparent, accountable, and applied fairly to everyone. Thank you for your time. Anybody have any questions? Because I talk a lot.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have anything to report. So,
Does anyone else have anything to report on the council?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second. Second motion.
All in favor?
thank you.